Are you a believer in good? Do you love it when the good guys win in the end? Then Charity Matters is just the place for you, where modern day heroes overcome incredible obstacles to save the day with their remarkable work. Welcome to Season 5 of the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, nonprofit founder, lifelong helper, and your host. I've been interviewing the helpers for over a decade with our blog, and I am so excited to finally be sharing these inspiring conversations with our podcast. Join me as we learn the challenges and stories of innovators, entrepreneurs, and modern-day heroes who set out to solve the problems of humanity. Have you ever walked by trash on a dirty sidewalk or seen trash piled up high in a neighborhood and wondered who's going to clean that up? Who's going to pick that up? What's happening to my neighborhood? Well, today's guest not only saw a problem, but created an incredible solution and nonprofit. Her name is Ann Cutbill-Linnane, and we are so excited to have her talk about her nonprofit called One Block, UWS. And I think that Ann's story will inspire all of us the power of one person to unite a community to make a difference. We are so excited to have Ann Cutbill-Linnane with us today from One Block, UWS, and she is going to share with us really an inspiring story of the power of one person to unite a community to really make a difference in her neighborhood. So I'm so excited you're here, Ann. Thank you and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. How nice to be here. So it's so funny because the neighborhood is actually not even where I live. It's actually where I work the most, but somehow I'm cleaning it up. So go figure.
Well, we cannot wait to hear about this. And I heard about you through a mutual friend, said, oh my gosh, you have got to meet this woman. She is a powerhouse. She has an amazingly huge career. And then she's taken on this project, which is an understatement, nonprofit on the side. And so why don't you start by telling us just quickly what One Block does?
Sure. So,
do?
One Block right now, kind of how it started is a great story. But right now, what we're doing is we have 3 people who were formerly homeless or incarcerated, who were trained through an organization called ACE, similar to what we also have here in the city, the Doe Fund, where they train them, and they're taking care of the paperwork and the liability. But we have 3 people that are working for us here on the Upper West Side. So I say, who is us? So One Block is a nonprofit, and there are areas in the city, in New York City, that have business improvement districts. But for some reason, and probably one of the most heavily, the highest density, residential density in the city, there is not a BID or a business improvement district. So from 70th to 96th Street, on 3 avenues, we have these one woman and 2 men bagging 1,000 bags of garbage every week in that area of the Upper West Side. So that doesn't sound in itself like, I mean, it is a huge accomplishment because that's a lot of garbage that would be all around our neighborhood. Because back in 2020, right before the pandemic, there was $106 million budget cut to the sanitation budget. So garbage cans were not being emptied as much. And then the pandemic hit and all hell broke loose.
So talk to me about exactly because I think one of the reasons that we have these conversations and that you and I are talking today, and it's so important, is that people see trash all the time in their neighborhood, or people see garbage, or people see a problem, but they don't necessarily do something about the problem. And so they just walk by, they think, well, that isn't my trash, and I'm not responsible for that because I didn't leave that, so I'm not going to pick it up. So talk to me about, again, everyone I've ever interviewed who has started a nonprofit and been in charge can share the moment that something happened that they said, this is not okay. So
take us to that moment of where you were and what was happening that inspired you to begin to build it.
So the pandemic, you can only imagine living in New York City. It was incredibly scary during the pandemic, and it was shut down. I mean, I remember going down Fifth Avenue and there was not another car except for me. And I burst into tears. It was just not knowing whether the place that I loved the most, the place that I felt home, was ever going to recover. So on the Upper West Side, where I sell most of the, because I'm a residential real estate broker, and it's where my office is and where I raised my kids for a gazillion years until fairly recently moving away. There were 3 homeless shelters that opened up in what were 3 hotels, and the neighborhood went crazy. And so about 800 plus people were moved into our neighborhood, into these hotels, and the neighborhood was going crazy and very divided about whether they should be there or not. And anyway,
That
so instead of
not
getting
in my backyard, right? We love
exactly
so homeless, but not in my backyard.
right. But also the, also the city was, it was like the zombie apocalypse. It was horrible. It was just really scary. So anyway, instead of getting involved with the rights and wrongs of whether that was a good thing or bad thing for the neighborhood, I saw the neighborhood turning really turning in a very scary direction. And I thought, okay, when New York City had the squeegees, where we were in kind of dire trouble in the 80s, the turnaround point was when Giuliani said, we've got to clean it up first. You got to get rid of the graffiti. You got to you got to clean it up so that people feel better about being there, and they'll be more respectful of their neighborhood if it's cleaner. So I was like, okay, I can start with the garbage. That's a simple thing. So I also have 3 homeless shelters with lots of people that are homeless and needing work. Right. So I thought, okay, I'll just get some garbage cans. I'll go there and I'll put these people to work and give them jobs, and we'll go clean up some garbage. Well, that did not go as planned. Let me tell you. I can
by
tell you.
By the way, every nonprofit founder I've ever spoken to, had no idea. They had an idea. They saw a problem. They wanted to be part of a solution. They care deeply and passionately about something, which you do about your neighborhood in New York, but they did not realize the magnitude of what they were taking on.
I have to confess, I am not the person that bends down and picks up the candy wrapper. I will tell you, that is not me. How I became the queen of green, because we've got these green garbage bags everywhere, I don't even know. So anyway, so I go into the homeless shelters. I'm like, hi, I'm here. I've got some jobs. Literally get the door shut in my face more than once. So it's pretty incredible story that I was looking for people to work for me, because I also had reached out to the Doe Fund, who only works with people who were homeless. And so I finally got somebody on the phone. I couldn't find anybody. Finally get somebody on the phone. They're like, we don't have the manpower. Well, how could that be? Right. We have never had more homeless people. So anyway, so I got connected. This is kind of crazy. So one of my dearest friends is Alita St. James, and she's a healer, but her brother is Curtis Lewa, the founder of the Guardian Angels. So I was talking to her and I said, oh my goodness, I've got this thing and I need to hire people to clean the garbage. And she said, well, you should speak to Curtis. Curtis started, before he started the Guardian Angels, he started with cleaning garbage. I said, well, he's my man. So we met in my office for about an hour, and he was wonderful. And he said, you should reach out to ACE. So ACE was a game changer because they did have people that were already trained that I could pay. So I said, okay, let me try this hybrid approach. I'll pay for the first month. And you know what? Somehow I'm going to figure out a way to pay these salaries going forward. And at the time it was, about $13,000 a month. Plus I needed to get the garbage bags.
Right.
So I did that, but simultaneously I saw now, I know that you had said, listen, how, people have asked me, like, how do you start something like this? How do you get people behind you? How do you raise this money? I got very lucky because of the homeless shelters and the rage that the neighborhood was feeling. A Facebook page started, And immediately, and again, everybody's sitting in their underwear, right? On a Zoom call. No one's leaving the house.
Well, you had a
Everybody's
very
online.
captivated audience at a time
Exactly.
where people were not rushing about their busy, frenetic New York lives. They were sitting still and looking out the window at what's happening in
Right.
their, you know,
They were
their
stir crazy. Right.
Right.
But they were also enraged about the homeless shelters. So the hotels. So a Facebook page started overnight and they had 16,000 people that joined like in a month.
I
It
mean,
also happened to be.
that's I think that just for people listening who aren't from New York and who live in urban or not even in rural America or in small town America, and to think of, that's the size of a small city, to get that kind of engagement is miraculous, Anne. Like that just
Right.
doesn't.
But that was not me. It was another page that was raging about what was going on with the homeless shelters on the Upper West Side.
Okay.
So I happened to see on there somebody post a little thing saying, listen, I'm not getting involved with this fight, basically, but if anybody wants to sign up to clean their block twice a week, let me know. I'm going to fill out a chart, and you know, and we're going to call it one block. So I reached out to this guy, being, you know, and I'm like, wait, I'm going to be cleaning the avenues. You're going to be cleaning the side streets. We need to meet. So he was this young kid from Texas. Was not even a native New Yorker. And he's like, okay, sure, let's meet. And I go, okay, happen in an hour. So of course, no one's doing anything anyway in this city. No one can go to work. So we met in an hour and we said, all right, let's do this. And it was there was a game changer. So we were able to get we had all these neighbors that wanted, I mean, New Yorkers don't clean. Let me just tell you something. We're, you know, aggressive, crazy, you know, type A people,
Right.
that are not walking around like, you know, loving their neighbor and like cleaning garbage. But we all of a sudden turned the Upper West Side into garbage picker uppers. And we had, we got an attorney to help us turn into a nonprofit through this website. And again, this was the challenging, and this is going to be the challenging. It has been
jumping ahead to my next question, which is, you know, what are some of the challenges that you face? You don't really realize you're starting you do start a business because you realize you have to have donations, and you need to, you need to have a legal 501c3 to collect the donations in order to fund this thing to keep going. But there's so many challenges of starting any business. What were some of the challenges that you were coming across pretty quickly?
Yeah, that to get your nonprofit, you really have to have an attorney that does it pro bono, because it's very expensive. It's very difficult to get that. There's so many forms. And so that I am so grateful for Gibson Dunn, who was our shepherded us through that process and continues to help us along the way. And then, so here it was a couple of things. Number one, we had these weekly cleanups where we would have, you know, we had T-shirts and hats, and we got listen, I'm the top Manhattan broker at one of the largest firms in Manhattan. I am the queen of marketing. Okay. My tagline is Annie gets it done. So the marketing part of it with branding of one block, and I made sure we had green garbage bags, because the thing was, if you're picking up that garbage, people need to know who's picking up the garbage, you know, who is doing it. You can't have a regular bag. So anyway, so it was community involvement, but we also had that group that I was able to pull from and get 2,000 followers and people on our mailing list. And, you know, at the time, and Facebook has now changed it, Facebook was so if somebody saw one block on Facebook, they could write to me. If somebody wanted to join a private page, I could ask them to give me their email address. That was the smartest thing I could do. And I also said, hey, and what block are you on? So I was able to see where people live. Right. Now Facebook has changed. And if somebody wants to join your page, you don't really have the ability to ask what their email address is. And so that was a big thing, because now I have these email addresses and I can keep in touch with them. Right. So, so anyway, so that was a change. But
So
the
challenging.
biggest,
So you now couldn't gather a new audience. You couldn't collect the information from Facebook. The pandemic starts to end. Obviously, you don't have
right,
a
right,
audience that's captive, which you had, which is really
right.
unique.
But I was able to grab those Facebook followers early on. I was able to get those email addresses, and every person that showed up to volunteer, I got their email addresses. That is key.
So
And the
smart.
thing was, I had to also keep them informed of our progress. So it's not just, hey, the Upper West Side is cleaner. So in walk these three people who are cleaning our garbage. Now, there's many areas around New York City that have people doing supplemental cleanup. The issue was that one of them had been in jail for 43 years. He was somebody I actually hired separately and then got a job at ACE. I actually met him on the street, and he was desperate for a job. He was 68 years old and had been in jail for some serious stuff. Um, but he was our hardest worker. And I had Jerry, who was working with us, who had been, had a major drug and alcohol problem. And I had people leaving the route because they were smoking dope, and I had to fire them. I had people that were stealing our bags to sell them, to make money. I had people that don't have a credit card. So in the middle of the winter, when they're cleaning garbage, and it's a pandemic, remember, you can't really go into a restaurant and just even go in. They needed a credit card to be a customer, to be able to use a bathroom, or to be able to get out of the cold for a little bit, right? But they didn't have a credit card. So if they didn't bring cash that day, they couldn't go in. Well,
Wait,
you
Anne,
could.
you need to wait. I need to rewind. You need a credit card to go into a bathroom in New York?
Yes, of course. Well, you need to be a customer.
You need to be a customer. Okay. Okay.
Right. So, and again, you and I think you've got a credit card, you've got a cash card, you've got some money in your pocket. That's just not the case. You've been living you probably are still living in a shelter. Some of these people we're still living with it in a shelter, or they're living in their car and they're showing up to clean for me, but they don't have the money to be able to use a bathroom. So I don't want to give someone who's teetering on the edge of having a drug problem cash. It's not a good idea. You can't, right? So I would give gift cards, and I would keep it with a small thing. It might be $10 or $20. And I'd say, here, this is so you can buy lunch for the next 2 days, but that you can go inside to use a bathroom, but you can go inside to get a coffee. You can warm up. You can get out of the rain for a little bit, right? So it was also, when somebody comes to work for you, and you think, okay, I'm going to give you a job cleaning garbage. They don't have the shoes. They don't have the rain gear, So it was, challenging.
I think what's also so fascinating, and I think it's what's so beautiful about the work we do with nonprofits, is, we create connection and community. And these are people you would probably, as a top real estate broker in New York City, you would probably never be having conversations with. You would never know. You would never meet these people. This would not be someone you would run into in your daily line of work. And now you're having these conversations with a very different group of people, and you're building relationships with them, and you're connecting them to the community, and you're creating this connection and community that didn't exist, and you're giving a lifeline to someone who didn't have one. And that's
well, right. It's putting a face to the faceless person that picks up your trash. And so that weekly newsletter that I made sure, and again, I'm a single mom. I've got a very big job. I'm involved with a lot of different things, but I never did a personal or business email, newsletter before. But this newsletter was key, because it was letting people know our progress, begging for money, giving obviously attention to our sponsors that were kind enough to donate. But it was mostly also just following the progress of not the trash, but the people that we were helping to get back on their feet. Because again, you have a community that was pissed about people, those people coming to live in shelters in our neighborhood. But the bottom line is that shut up. If
Right.
you need to give people jobs, and it's not just about giving them jobs and handing them, because there's a reason why they probably ended up homeless in the first place. There's a reason why they ended up in job. They don't have the skills that you and I have, and they need support and they need guidance, and they need to be let go if they're breaking the rules.
Right, but
And so
they also need community. And I've interviewed a number of homeless nonprofits, which I know that is not what you are, but I've interviewed a number of homeless nonprofits, and I think one of the most fascinating things that I've learned is that many of the homeless have said, I didn't become homeless when I lost my job. I didn't become homeless when I lost my house. I became homeless when I lost my friends, any connection, my family, my community, and then I became invisible.
right.
And your point of saying we're giving a face, but you're also giving a human connection, which they've also been lacking. And that is something you and I do it every day, connecting with people, you especially in your job. But I think that that's a skill that has to be built on. To your point, these people don't have these skills, but they've been shut off from those skills also.
Right. And it's also me advocating for them. So I'll give you an example. It was a snowy day, and I had been into this particular shoe store before with the folks, and I didn't walk in with them. So you had three people of color that did not look as though they had the resources that I might, blowing in my, work outfit. I
Right.
said, listen, I'm running late. You guys go in first. Came in, and I said, what they looked like crestfallen. They were looking down, and I said, what's going on? And they said, they don't have any shoes. I go, they don't have any boots. What? Like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, maybe no one understood. Like, what? Like, and so anyway, I quickly saw what was going on, which was no service for them.
Right.
It was so it was disgusting. And they said, it's okay, let's go. I said, you know what? It's not okay. And it is not happening on my watch. And I went crazy in that car. I went crazy in that store. I used it on social media. We then went to another store where we only shop now. But there was a way that I had their back. And it's
Right.
also the encouragement of sending out the newsletter. There's not a block that they tell me that they go on that somebody doesn't say thank you.
And this is my question for you, because I think that sometimes when we're running these businesses, and many people who start nonprofits are doing it on the side, they still have a full life. They have kids, they have a family, they have a big life, as you do too. And when there's moments where I always say the bucket feels heavy, how can I carry all of this? How can I carry the backs of these people that are relying on me? How can I carry the backs of my community? Plus you're dealing with just your life, your clients, your kids, and everything else. What motivates you to keep going when the bucket's heavy like that? I mean,
I just can't. We've got a woman named Jackie. She's like the mama bear. She's making sure that the two guys, like one of the guys is a full-time person, but then there's a trainee always with us, right? So she's like, Miss Ann, I just made sure that he was taken care of, and like, he didn't show up, or like, I think he might be using it, like she's like shepherding. She's like, and it's like the thought, and she's showing up in long green nails, because she's like one block. She's stopping any celebrity she sees on the street and taking pictures with them, and telling them about one block. She shows up with her lashes, and the thought that she would not have she would have a job, but I pay them more than the other routes. They
Right.
have these gift cards. I did a fundraiser, like a bonus for her, where she was able to get a new mattress. With she and her husband, we took them shopping for a mattress. It's like, I can't, when I get, what happens is that when I get a check, there's a part of me that goes, oh my gosh, thank God, because I can breathe, because I have another, month left.
Right.
There's a part of me that goes, I don't know if I can go on, because it's a lot. And if, it's a lot. I finally just got some money, what seemed like a saving grace from the city, but no joke. It's taken since August for me to be even in a position, and I'm still not, to be even able to submit some bills. And when I do, there's at least a 6-month wait for me to even get partial reimbursement. So it's like,
Wow.
how am I supposed to budget for that? So every day I'm pushing this up. So long story short, how do I go on? How do I shoulder it? I can't picture these people without one block. Like I just like I want them to go on to something else. I don't want them to be picking up garbage, but what I want them is to get stabilized. I want them to feel appreciated. I want them to feel that they're not I feel like I'm tearing up, but it's like the thought that they, I just, it's a lot. Sorry.
Huge.
It's a lot.
The thing with nonprofits that I don't think people realize, like if you're selling an apartment, you get a commission, you do a transaction, you get paid for it. But in nonprofit, we get paid in ways like you gave them a mattress, and there's no way of measuring what that feels like, that impact to you feels like. When I was talking to you on the phone the other day, you got a text from someone just randomly telling you how amazing you are. And I don't say it enough, Miss Ann, but thank you for all you do. So we get, those are the ways which we get paid.
Right.
For the work that we do. But when you measure impact for nonprofit, people want to say, well, how many bags of trash you pick up? How many hours did you keep them off the street? They want all these different statistics. What would you say the measure of your impact is? Is it a personal story? Is it a number of bags of trash? Where do you think the impact of one block has been? Is it bringing your community together?
Sometimes, and I think this is all part of, sometimes you think that life is supposed to go in a certain direction, and you think, one of our first workers who I found on the street, I ended up getting, not only he got the job, and then we found him a stabilized apartment and got him furniture, and then he's back in jail. And it's like, and so, you know what? I can only help along the way, and somebody's path is going to be what it's going to be. I know that we are making an imprint on someone's life, and it's an imprint that I know will last. I don't know whether it'll go in the trajectory that I think it should, and everybody's living then beyond a white little, like a white picket fence. But you know what? You got to step up. You can only do what you can do, and you just never know. Sometimes, I'm sure you've heard stories where somebody meets somebody 10 years ago, and you don't even know you've said something to somebody, and you go, you know what, you said that to me then, and it made you never even know. So
100%.
I don't know. Yes, the Upper West Side is much cleaner. I know people are out getting, I'm having like little kids picking up garbage. I know I've got a bunch of people that now have new shoes and have jobs. And but you know what? You put good into the universe, and you never know what comes about. It's just the coolest thing.
Amen. It comes back in so many ways, in such a huge way, so much bigger than you ever anticipated or expected. And for anyone who's thinking, I can't do anything or I can't make a difference, you are just spot on. So if you could dream any dream for one block, what would that look like?
I think the dream would be to, and again, my dream versus what might be, I would like to be able to support the folks that are working for me and are very loyal for me, and get them into a position where they are a little bit more stable, working for relatively minimum wage is not ever going to get anybody out of the cycle of poverty, right?
Right.
So I would love to be able to have them find employment that they would be able to be indoors. It might be a little bit less backbreaking because this is tough work. You're lifting up garbage cans for 20 blocks, like on every side of the avenue in the snow. And it's not fun.
It's hard work.
But if somebody shows up and they do that kind of work, and they show up and they work hard, that they should try, that they should really be helped and lifted up to be the best that they can be. So it's not about one block in garbage, which is really important. But it's really about the people that are showing up, because we have so many people in the city that are in need of a leg up, and so many people that don't show up and are not taking care of their drug addiction, and that they just can't. Mental illness is not on medication, but there are people that are ready, willing, and able, and we should be able to help them and should be helping them.
Well, I love that what you're doing. I mean, this journey's been only a couple of years long, and I have to imagine that you've learned a handful of life lessons in the 3 years since 2020 when this all started. And what do you think you've learned since you started this? I think you just shared a little bit about that. Obviously, you're someone who rolls up their sleeves and goes to work. You're obviously someone who doesn't just see a problem and sit by and just let it say it's not my problem. But what lessons have you learned that have, the last couple of years about people and about your community in doing this work?
Oh boy, I've learned a lot. I've learned the power of one, which becomes the power of many, because you have to step up. I mean, you really do. It takes a lot of work, but it's like it's a lot of work, but it's not a lot of work, right? The impact is huge. The amount of hours.
Someone has to have the light and light the torch and light the fire with everybody else. And you and the nonprofit founder is 99.9% of the time that person, which is exactly who you are. The person that lit a fire along everyone saying, we can do this. We can do this. And the reason I like to have these conversations about the power of one, I've never once, you included, met anyone who said, oh, I did this whole thing. Everyone says, no, I had 16,000 people on Facebook. I had all these volunteers. I had this guy from Texas. I had, all these things happen. It's never one person who starts an organization, but it's usually one person who ignites it. And I think when people feel helpless in their lives and they feel I can't do anything, or I don't know how to make a change, or I don't know how to do anything big, it just takes that one spark that changes everything. But you were that spark.
Like, so if I didn't reach out to my friend and her brother was in Curtis, I wouldn't have found out about ACE. And, it's like all of these things, people. And again, this is another side note. I feel that I am used to every day speaking to people. I make a note about what they do. And it's not, listen, I'm a very good real estate broker. Real estate brokers do not have the best reputation, right? But I try to remember what everybody does. And that is really, truly, so that if I remember that somebody's involved with something, or somebody just had Parkinson's and another friend is doing research, I will make sure that they connect, but I'm not afraid to connect them. And that's the thing, when the younger people also, they don't pick up the phone. Like, it's all about relationships with me. So I can pick up the phone, and I'm not afraid to pick up the phone. And it took a while. I'm 60 years old. I have a lot more wrinkles now, but I can tell you, I'm a lot more badass than I was before. I'm going to pick up the phone.
I love you, Ann. You're my people. You're my people.
I mean, so what, I mean,
but I do think being a connector is a huge part of creating community, because how can you bring people together if you're not connecting them? And it's funny, when you are a connector, and most nonprofit founders are, and they have to be in so many cases, but usually we kind of are by default, is that people say, oh, I don't know how you did that. Well, I picked up the phone and I introduced so-and-so. I sent an email. I sent a text saying, you need to know so-and-so. It's natural behavior to people who are connectors like you and myself, but for people that aren't, they don't even know how to
freeze. They freeze.
Right.
But this, and I love that you have this podcast, because as people are listening to this, just think about, what's your superpower, right? What are you good at? And listen, you don't have to be writing a check. You don't have to be the person that's picking up garbage. But if you've got, like, there's so many people along the way that have helped me, that worked at a bank, that connected me to the person that I was able to get a check. There's, like a moving company that I work with a lot that's really, really good, that was able to write a check. So I'm able to give them business, but then they ended up helping me when Lamont moved into his apartment, and I was able to move the furniture in there. And I got, but everybody's got resources. And so if we all just say, hey, listen, I've got, like, at one point I put out on our newsletter, if anybody has, kind of gently used furniture, there are people graduating from ACE and they're moving into their own apartments. And so we had people donating their furniture so that somebody could have a bed and a couch and it's like, that's simple. It doesn't seem simple, but it's simple.
Right.
It's simple. It's simple. You got to use your mouth, use your words. And to
And-
those youngsters out there, stop texting and pick up the phone. And you know what, by the way, go to the office. Get out of your pajamas.
Conversation without your thumbs.
Because you won't have those relationships if you're on your phone all the time.
I love this.
Spoken like a true dinosaur.
Exactly. Now, from one dinosaur to another, sister. I hear you
Yes.
clear, and I think that your advice is incredibly sage and wise. How do you think that you've changed in these couple of years? Do you think this experience has changed you?
I'm obsessed with garbage now. So when I go, I have to tell you, like, I look at I look at an empty garbage can and a little green garbage bag on the side, and I'm so proud. It's like, we've been there, we just made a difference, and somebody came along and somebody felt good about doing that, and somebody else wasn't stepping on stuff. And when I go into another area of the city and I see it as a hot mess, and I feel bad for the people that live there, because you know what? We were blessed by something that at the time seemed to many people like the end of the world. Like the end of the world had come. 3 homeless shelters in your neighborhood, and God forbid. But you know what? What came out of that was that we actually, something great came out of that, and we are
Connection, a nonprofit, people working together, your neighborhood helping employ people, cleaner streets, safer
Right.
streets. I mean,
Right.
the list, community pride. I mean, the list goes on and on of what a simple beginning of connecting with someone and seeing a problem did, and
Right.
what has happened in the community. And I think that I love your story, Anne, because I just think so many people these days feel, oh, these problems are so much bigger than I can do anything. Everyone just feels like, oh, the problem's so big. It's
You
how
got
do
to
I
start with one step.
how do I now? Right. You got to start with one small act.
Right.
And I love the question you're saying is, what is your superpower? And what can I do for this problem? It might be tiny, but you never know what door it opens, because when you're doing good work, doors just keep opening.
Right. There's a nonprofit, which I would love for you to talk with her. But it's an organization that helps kids that are coming to the city for cancer treatments. Once again, your neighbor makes cupcakes. It was like they were having a Valentine's Day party for a bunch of kids, and it's like, pick up the phone. They're happy. It's like, oh my gosh, of course I can donate the 40 cookies, like the 40 cupcakes. Like, people want to help. They just don't know. You got to go for the ask.
Yep.
So if you're not that person that can go for the ask, then get that other friend of yours that does, and just say, hey, listen, let's just make this happen. And could you call? I'm embarrassed, hide behind an email if you have to, but you got to ask people. People do. Many people want to help. Not everybody wants to help, but many people do want to help. They do.
I 100% agree. And I think most people, and people listening for sure, want to help. We seem to attract the helpers here at Charity Matters. And so tell us how we can help One Block. Tell us how we can support you, how we can find you, how we can help you. Where can we donate? Tell us how we can help you at One Block.
So so you can follow us on Facebook, and that's always a way to find out what's going on with us. And then we've got our email, which would be great if you want to be on our newsletter. If you want to sign up for our newsletter. So that's contact. What is it? It's contact. What the heck is it? It's contact at One Block UWS and .org, and that is .org. And if you go onto our website, which is UWS, or just Google One Block. There is a site, I think that's One Block, that goes into the dark web. But anyway, but One Block is, you can donate through PayPal there. And the sponsorships are great. That's what is able to help me sleep at night, because it's wonderful that people are donating, and some people will put on a monthly donation. But the sponsorships are great. We have a lot of exposure here, and it is a nonprofit. And anyway, so you can, and we're also on Instagram. So we, unfortunately, our Instagram got hacked, and so now we're only back down to 200 followers. But it's One Block West Side, because we had to change it. But anyway, so if you Google One Block, we come up in one way or another. And so I hope that you do find out more about us, and any way to support us and send a check would be great. But I'm able to also help people if they're thinking about doing it in their own neighborhood. But it is kind of challenging.
Well, we love what you're doing.
Thank you. And thanks for what you do, spreading the word about one person, one block at a time. You can make a difference. Right. And that's true. That's true.
Amen. It just takes one person to change everything. And thank you for being that person. Thank you for inspiring us. And thank you for just reminding us all how important it is to take care of each other in our communities.
Thank you. All righty. Thanks. Be well.
Thank you, Anne.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I really enjoyed talking to our guest, Anne, about what it takes to start a business that truly changes people's lives. I think Anne's comment about the power of one was so inspiring and true. To learn more about modern day heroes like Anne, or if you'd like to reach out to us, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. If you enjoyed our conversation, we would love it if you shared it with your family and friends. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. But more importantly, thank you for caring. Thank you for believing in good, for being a part of our movement. You are exactly what the world needs more of. Remember that together we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. Charity matters. See you next time.